Hey everyone, and welcome back, and welcome to our panel session, Business as Unusual. Now more than ever, people have seen that tech is a part of every industry. Our world has changed, and we have embraced digital technology during COVID-19 because we had to. We have all learnt new skills and advanced our use of technology much faster than we'd planned, and surprised ourselves with the results at work and at home. Very excited to now be able to chat to our panellists with Business as Unusual and how the pandemic has affected women who work in the digital space. So welcome back, Vanya, Harriet and Belle on the live stream as well. Thank you so much, ladies. I want to thank you first for your incredible presentations. I know that and I'm sure all of the viewers, we had 175 of them register for this event, that they would really have taken a lot from what you had to say. Each of you so different, but so incredible at what you do. And yeah, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so I do want to start with a big one. What has been the biggest takeaway for the digital industry from the pandemic? And feel free for either of you to answer. How about we start with Vanya?
So I think that what's happened with COVID, it has really accelerated our acceptance of digital technology in our everyday life. And I think it's a great opportunity for the industry to take that momentum and to start to bring people with them on that journey. And because I remember when COVID first hit, there was a bit of hesitancy because people just were stepping into this unknown. And so we did have, of course, digital technology and systems in place, but it wasn't so integrated into our everyday life. And now we do have them so integrated and we accept them, and now there's this great opportunity to really engage people with where's that industry going next, and really take them on that journey so that they're really invested in new solutions or in innovations going forward.
Yeah, really interesting. And totally to sound on that is that I think as well is it's opened the world up. And, that's I mentioned in my conversation before is that now more than ever, we can go and apply for jobs that are not in the same state, that are not in the same country that we've been in. And we can learn from so many more people because the world has opened up and it's become more acceptable to connect online. Whereas before it was a lot more, people were a lot more hesitant.
That's right. How about you, Belle?
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with some points is that, working from home was so scary for a lot of people and they couldn't understand how, one, they would set it up, and two, how they could run their business without being in the same room as the rest of their team. I think also it forced people to have a little bit more trust in their employees as well. And I think working from home, you also need to be very disciplined to do that at times too. It's so tempting to put a load of washing on and, do a meeting at the same time. So I think, a lot of people are a lot less scared of the possibility of got into a nice flow with working from home since the pandemic.
Do you think it's put us, the small country town, or being from Darwin, which is obviously a small town as well, do you think it's created more opportunity for us to, apply for jobs, and you don't have to be moving to a huge city anymore to be seen because so much of it is in the digital space now?
Yeah, I totally agree. It just has opened up that world of opportunity. And like Belle said about working from home, it's made it more acceptable. More of the employers do have to be more trusting. But there was that change when people went working from home and there was a lot of anxiety around working from home for a lot of people that weren't used to it. And then the thought of going back to work was a really difficult, concept. And now with multiple lockdowns, there has to be that continued flexibility, which then will support that maybe potentially people's anxiety levels of being able to either work from home or work from the office to be more effective. And they had the opportunity to work that out.
No, we had to deal with, firstly, oh my gosh, how are we going to work from home, to then, oh, we're going to go back to work. So I know what you mean about that, and that transition, I guess.
I think it's also challenged the 9 to 5 workday as well. I think, for me, I definitely have my Einstein moments much later in the day. Like I need to get up in the morning, have that big cup of coffee, then probably follow up with another one, and before I kick into gear. And that 9 to 5 sometimes creates that rigidity where your peak or your performance could be later on, or it's split because you've got different things on. And whereas maybe the 9 to 5 created that pressure, now having more flexibility creates this opportunity to give people a chance to really step into their own space of work and create their working environment that suits them more.
Yeah, and I don't know about you three, but I feel far more productive in my pajama pants. So
Definitely.
Sometimes when you are working from home, you get up, you have that big cup of coffee and you're more comfortable, and sometimes there's less distractions than in the office, right?
Yeah, totally.
All right. So according to ACS, Australia's Digital Pulse report in 2021, although women hold around 47% of all employment positions in Australia, they are underrepresented in the technology sector. In 2020, women made up just 29% of the technology workforce in Australia. Why do you think that is? And what do we need to do to increase these participation rates for women?
Do you want to go? We actually had a very interesting conversation about that at lunch, where I think one of the keys is really tapping into young women and girls and teaching them and showing them what opportunities exist in the digital world and technology, because it's not necessarily straight away evident to them. They go through school and university and they don't necessarily get exposure to what are not just the current jobs, but what's the future job, because they're going to be stepping into a future roles, not necessarily the jobs that exist right now. And so, creating that imagination in their minds around where is the digital industry and technology going and how can you contribute to it, rather than being, again, that bystander, I think is probably at the moment something that's holding back women in digital industry, and hopefully in the future that can change.
Yeah, totally agree. And yes, great conversation we had today. And I think that with a lot of the time, as girls and as women, we watch people do it and then we know it's possible. And so, if we can see that the roles are out there and that there are women in these roles that maybe before were held by men or maybe before didn't even exist, we're then able to then see that it is possible, and we can see that path, or at least we know the path has been forged and we can follow in footsteps, or at least kind of make our way because we know it is possible. Whereas before, we may not have seen that.
Exactly. We can't all be pioneers like you guys. You're absolute trailblazers, so it's so great to see. And how about you, Belle? What do you think? I know you said in your presentation that you didn't really realise at the start that it was male-dominated, and you kind of figured that out as you move forward.
Yeah, that's right. And I did touch on that in my talk, is that there generally are more male programmers, developers, and female designers, project managers, as it happens. So I think you're also right, is that it depends on the exposure. A lot of people don't know about these roles or what's out there. And until recently, what I found is that people refer to digital as IT or ICT. So it often got banded together, and they're like, "Oh, you're IT, can you please fix my computer?" And I'm like, I have no idea how to fix your computer or your internet, or how to really work a Samsung very well, surprisingly, because I build apps. So I think now that it's sort of becoming known and digital has been identified as a separate entity to IT, it is its own beast. So I think traditionally these stats and these numbers were coming around based off IT numbers, being networks, Wi-Fi, phone lines, cabling, hardware devices. So I'd be interesting to see what those results and stats come out in the future, with the more exposure we're getting for digital, when people are recognizing that it's not actually purely IT.
It's more diverse than that. That's right. Okay. So tell me, ladies, how was the seed planted? Let's talk about the innovation journey. I know, Harriet, you did see a gap in the market for the property management app that we can't wait to be able to use. Tell us how the seed was planted, I guess.
Yeah, so for me, it was a gap in the market, and it was really working through, I guess, a couple of processes that I was involved in and worked out that actually there was a better way of doing it. And I guess that really comes from innovation, but also from how we can automate processes, because again, through digital, through tech, we really want to work smarter, not harder, but we want to find ways that's going to help us to, live better or do things quicker and easier. And so for me, it was definitely a gap in the market, and then working through as to whether it is a real gap or whether it's just a gap for me, and then finding other people's problems and using the language and using the terminology that they're finding as well, and then growing on from there. But if I look at the beauty industry that I did before, and then with the sales consulting now, it's all about tying in with passion, with a gap, and with the ability to innovate and to automate.
Really need that passion. You can't just sit. I think there's too much work involved if you didn't have the passion behind it, right?
Yeah,
Vanya, talk to me about the, unlocking the sky to healthcare access using drones. Can you walk us through, how that seed was planted again, please?
Oh, absolutely. So for me, it was definitely COVID that planted the seed of questioning what were the issues in our healthcare system, because previous to this, I just was oblivious to many facts that I know now, which are that access is not equal to everybody in Australia, and that actually happens around the world. It's not just a problem that developing countries have, but also that first world systems and healthcare systems have, and it's a global issue that we need to address. And COVID really started to crack that, started to open my eyes to that, because it started to show where the cracks were in the system. And then there is obviously that frustration where you feel like, well, we're going through a global pandemic and surely we have the technology there that can fix it. So why aren't people just implementing it? And it was because, that we needed an accelerator. We needed a reason for people to go, right, we need to invest in this. We need to start devoting attention to this. And so for me, that was that passion that came out, where I was like, well, here's the problem. Here's a possible solution. We know that it works internationally. We've never trialed it here in Australia as yet on a big scale. And so what a great opportunity to be part of something really innovative. So for me, it was really that passion and drive for wanting to contribute to bettering Australia's healthcare system, and particularly, of course, the Northern Territory.
So impressive. Thank you, Vanya. All right. So, Belle, how has this digital disruption been? Has it been a help, you think, or it's been a hindrance to the work that you do?
It's been a help, I would say, mostly. I think it's really changed the way everybody does everything. They had no choice but to change the way that they do things, whether that's the way they hold meetings, the way that they store their information online, getting rid of paperwork, accessing information quickly and easily. I think it's been good for the most part for businesses. I think the disruption, though, hasn't been great for everybody in all industries, and that's mainly things around hospitality and whatnot as well. So I really feel for the modern brick businesses that still have to pay rent and rely on all this, all these costs to still run their business when they can't actually have a shop or something to run physically, from their location.
And that's another time where you kind of, and you know all about this, Harriet, as well, is for brick and mortar businesses to really be able to pivot. That word, the word of 2020 and 2021, right, is pivot. But it was so important. So being able to offer online services. So like for your beauty company that you were talking about, your day spa, being able to do consultations online and selling products online, e-commerce and that sort of thing. And that's the thing, when we talk about this pivoting, it's really, you will fall behind if you're that person shaking the fist going, oh, technology, and no, we don't want to go online, we love doing everything like the old school way. You really have to now. Big COVID's moved us into that space, hasn't it? So you really have to be online. All right. So with increased time working from home, this is a really big one, especially in the digital space. How have you managed to juggle a healthy work-life balance? And this question, I think, is very important, and I'd love to go to all of you on this. So tell me how you've really worked on that, keeping that healthy balance, because you're all powerhouses and I know you work through the clock. So, yeah, please talk us through what you do at home.
I'll go. So I think work-life balance I talked about is extremely important, but by moving people home is that what's happened is we've become more agile. So we can now reply to an email or reply to a text message on the spot, and whether it's 9 a.m., 9 p.m., 12:30, and you're stopping to, watch an episode of Friends and have lunch, which is what I do. We're always available. And so it's become really important where we don't want to be available all of the time, because it's not going to help us. There's no fire that's going to happen. We're not going to be able to save the world by replying to an email, in 3 minutes as opposed to 30 minutes. And so just having that disconnect with technology is really important. And then being able to then set those time frames of when you are working and when you're not working. Because yes, definitely the work from home and all of this digital world is impacting people's health, and it is impacting people's lives and how much we are working. And therefore I think it has to have a more important, standpoint.
And adding to that, there's really no excuse. I know a lot of people start putting a lot of social media marketing, geniuses, and that they put their phone in a drawer at 8:30 at night, and that's their rule. But there's really no excuse not to do stuff like that, because there's automated responses now, right, where you can explain that that's what happens at 8:30, or you can just explain, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Our hours are this, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I used to even have I don't do it anymore, but I used to have every Tuesday and Thursday I used to check emails. And so my auto response was, I check emails on a Tuesday and Thursday. If it's urgent, please contact me on this number. So you almost educating your clients and your colleagues and other businesses that you work with that these are my timeframes and this is what I work towards. And I'm super responsive on all these other times, but these are my boundaries, and I'm not prepared to cross over those boundaries.
Sure. How about you, Belle? Was it you that had the Labrador, the needy Labrador? So you like to get out of the house by walking around?
His name is Mosley. Yes.
Mosley.
He runs the house. So for me, it was also boundaries. So I went down a slippery slope where I was available 24/7. So, my hours can range from 40 to 100 hours a week, which is ridiculous and crazy. And so, sometimes we have to work at night or in the middle of the night. So if we're launching a new website, for example, and it's a very high profile website, when you launch a new website, it will go down for a little bit when we switch to the live site. So we can't have people seeing that. So often we'll have to do these projects and launch them in the middle of the night. So we schedule them between 12 midnight to 3 a.m. But clients sometimes know that you're working that late and they expect a response very quickly. Where I went wrong was that I did respond to them because I was like, great, I'm just keeping on top of my to-do list, and then I don't want it to pile up in the morning, so I just keep going, which wasn't good, because then the task piled up and people expected things faster, which is where I went massively wrong. So if I am working late at night, I won't reply to people at night. I'll schedule them all to send in the morning. If any replies, and I'll make sure that I am offline by 6 o'clock and I'm at home spending time with my family, and to make sure we've got that downtime and taking Rosalie to the park and those sort of things as well, to make sure I do fit in that balance, because otherwise it can sort of be a bit of a slippery slope where you just keep working and keep getting things done because you're so worried about your to-do list.
That's right. Sometimes you get an email, or something comes through Messenger or something like that. Even in my business, very much on social media, people can contact you via Instagram, Facebook, email, voicemail, all these, different handles. And it's just, it is important to go, no, that can wait. I'll reply, in decent hours. How about you, Vanya? I know that, this is such a huge project for you. You're so passionate about it. Is it hard to just go, okay, no, that's enough for today, I need to switch off?
Absolutely. No, I'm sure if you were to ask my partner and family, they would say your work-life balance is not where it should be. No, look, I did have last year when COVID first hit. I went down that slippery slope too, because at that time I was in a role that had a lot of responsibility. I was managing a team. I was trying to support them as well through shifting to working from home and providing that emotional support too, which COVID brought on. And so I just ended up taking a lot onto me and constantly being available through 3 different devices were constantly going off. I was on my laptop, I had my phones, and then I got burnt out very, very quickly. Like I couldn't, I remember what my partner one night saying to me, I watched you for a couple of hours and you've literally been stuck in the same position on your laptop, like just working. And so it definitely changed my way of thinking, and it made me realize how important it is to draw that line, to find a way to switch off. And it can be hard when you're at home because previous to that, you're used to the drive home being your switch off, or listening to the news on the way home being that switch off. And it was, for me, that was how my brain knew home time, work time. But that became very hard when you just walk out of your room and then you're like, oh, I'm in the living room now. So it was about finding, what are those things that I'm going to use as triggers to get me to switch off. So whether that's taking the dog for a walk, or just getting outside, or going to the walk at the beach, local beach or something like that. So those were really important.
I think, it's obviously really important. It's the old thing to say, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you're pretty useless to everybody if you burn out. So it's so important, whether it's just shutting the laptop, whether it is going for a walk. I think you're right, really being able to switch off. It's not easy, especially being, I guess, in the digital industry, because that's what you're doing all the time, to try to limit that screen time when you don't have to. Well, thank you so much. A huge thank you to all of our panellists who are absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for your presentations. Yvette as well, who couldn't join us for the panel, but thank you so much. Just a reminder to everybody that you're welcome to stay with us now for our Speed Network event for the next 30 minutes. Please do stick around. It's going to be amazing. You'll have a chance to chat to a group of 20 people for 5 minutes. Then it will automatically take you to a new chat group for another 5 minutes. So thank you again to our speakers, Vanya, Harriet, Belle and Yvette, for their inspiring digital stories. It was so fantastic. Brain is full at the moment. It was absolutely brilliant. Most importantly, thank you to all of you, our attendees, for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed today's session and you have been inspired to pursue your own digital journey. Thank you so much, and thanks to everyone from behind the scenes making it all work.